Now, many people have different opinions on SpongeBob, old SpongeBob, new SpongeBob, or movie SpongeBob. But at the very end, everybody sort of decided to say Plankton the movie was okay and best. Even that it was sort of trending first, then die out a couple of days ago. That's sort of pretty normal for any film or anything. But in the cartoon community, when the movie hits, it hits. And something about that, they keep trending nonstop for several days, weeks, or months. But Plankton the movie is one of those films I'm kind of truly intrigued because SpongeBob's fans did state they actually did like the movie, but it's sort of hard to explain why. Even critics says it's just better than the other film of, say, Bikini Bottom, but yet nobody really knows how to really explain it. I mean, it's just better in a way, yes, but at the same time, why or how is sort of kind of interesting because let's face it, if you see my channel overview of the Plankton, I did not like it, and because it doesn't feel it improve anything else, and it just feels sort of pan out. But yet people did enjoy it. They didn't fully love it. They did have some trending, but yet it sort of automatically died out as fast when the people are trying to appraise it in that sense. I wonder why did actually happen because usually I am super curious what the other half of the people did enjoy it because it's sort of interesting how they see it their point of view why they enjoyed this movie, but yet it didn't have this sort of stain on the internet that it won't let go of it how good it is, even that sort of sometimes it's okay. But ironically, this film was okay, but it sort of died out as fast as quickly. It only lasted a few days. But once again, that's sort of kind of normal. Of course, I did find someone who put something on Twitter that explained so well that I wanted to talk about it. But before I do, my name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, do reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, like to help my channel, pull a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. We do. Thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close every single day because of people like you. People pull like, comment, and subscribe. Now, let's get started off the conversation of why Say Bikini Butter is the bad movie and got more better received by Plankton the movie. Why is better, in other words. Now, let's get started. Now, this thread is from Al, the Art Zero, that you can find it on Twitter, that he made a very interesting plot thread that I'll probably break it down under one sentence or two, but I give you showing the post of every single point that Al actually posted on Twitter and just sort of breaking down my honest opinion. That's the reason why I agree why people enjoy it, but at the same time disagree why people didn't care about it. Now let's start for the first plot thread of this sort of explanation. Now, the first point it pointing states out is that SpongeBob and Sandy don't really have a lot of good moments in the movie or knows how to use it. Even that it feels it's not really that funny. And I have to say, no, you have several, but of course it does point out it better works in the show than the movie. But I feel that's just sort of misunderstood Sandy in the movie because Sandy and SpongeBob have this sort of almost bromance relationship. I think the best way to describe it, or if you will, a rivalry in a way, because the best episodes in the original show with Sandy, or how Sandy used the best way, instead of rivalry, like they one up each other to make things better, to have sort of a competition. And I think this is why the Say Bikini Bottom sort of misunderstand using Sandy, because that's not her strength with SpongeBob. And I think this is the reason why it kind of failed off that movie. Compared to Plankton, how Al sort of points out is that they'd be more funnier someone like Plankton, who is smaller, intelligent, who have to deal with SpongeBob as incompetent, is more funnier and more accurate. In a way, this is true, but at the same time, there's so much you can do with that it's just so little that you can't really explain expanded about it, because the original series they dedicated about maybe 2-3 episodes to the same thing, and all 3 episodes, if I remember, did work. But the only problem is it only works under 20 minutes, or at least 10 minutes. Even that, I think this is the reason why maybe it was more better accepted, because they understood how to use that dynamic even better. At least that's sort of the point of Al trying to do in my point. But all of that, I kind of agree and disagree, because Sandy is sort of a genius, exactly like Plankton, but it's just sort of dynamic. It's just sort of slightly more different than Plankton. Plankton is an evil scientist. Sandy is a genius and also a scientist, but she uses SpongeBob as a friend or a rival. Not a talented rival, but a rival of karate or competition. And that's the best way to use Sandy, not her lackey, in other words. It works better with basically Plankton, that idea. And I think it's kind of true in a way. But let's talk about the second point that Al points out of this plot thread. Now, the second point I completely agree is because in Plankton's movie, what Al trying to point out is basically stating is that Plankton used better SpongeBob, because SpongeBob forced Plankton to see he is sort of a jerk because he's not realized what's actually going on, to SpongeBob points it out to him. To compare to the Save Bikini Bottom Sandy Cheeks movie, basically that movie doesn't use SpongeBob the right way. SpongeBob is there's more a hindrance to Sandy, but the best he can use SpongeBob of that film is sort of a motivation to help Sandy to do better, to fix the problem. But that's not the relationship of Sandy, at least in my opinion, to Sandy to SpongeBob. And I feel that's sort of one of the dozen ways why that movie kind of fails to understand the relationship of Sandy and SpongeBob. To compare the Plankton movie, they understand the relationship of Plankton and SpongeBob. It's just sort of more traditional evil villain with his evil henchman or helper in this case. And I feel this is the reason why people received it even more, because it just understood the relationship more obvious. But to be fair, SpongeBob just kind of became sort of basic for the new version of it, so it's sort of easy to do that. But I don't know, I want to give this credit to the movie or not. It's all about your own opinion, how you felt, how this sort of relationship worked so well in these two different movies. Now let's talk about the third point of this sort of point list. Now the third point of Al is basically saying Save Bikini Bottom doesn't have great pacing. It's because they just went in while the setup. It went straight to the punchline while setting up or carrying the situation. It's almost saying, you know what you're here for, they get straight to the funny while actually building to the funny, in other words. And the other part of the Plankton the movie is the opposite. It takes its time and better pacing, understanding Plankton, why he became a jerk to Karen, to how SpongeBob helped Plankton to actually realize it. And that is just sort of kind of true, because let's face it, in the Plankton movie, you really get deep dive why Plankton, how he is, how he made Karen, how they sort of kind of abused that relationship. Even Karen was sort of okay with it for a little while, but you get all the setup to the main point. To compare to the Save Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Chicks movie, you kind of don't. You just sort of, oh, this happened and this happened. You just accept this. And the only problem is they jump a lot of hoops to make it work. Yeah, I think this is the reason why people really hate Save Bikini Bottom, because it just sort of never slows down to explain anything. Even that SpongeBob, it just sort of makes sense because it's SpongeBob. You know SpongeBob. You need to see just one episode to get SpongeBob what it is. But at the same time, it feels it just did not have to take its time. And I feel this is a good point of Al making this sort of good observation, because it's sort of true. Now let's talk about the next point of Al's 6 points. Now this fourth point that Al states, that is, I kind of agree and disagree because how he said it, but the way he said it, it doesn't really matter. Basically, he said it that basically saving Bikini Bottom, Sandy sort of meet her family, but never really does anything with it. It just they're there and that's it. You don't get the development like Plankton. Plankton have several songs, several different point of views of the timeline of Plankton to understand how Plankton become Plankton and how he met Karen. And it has that pacing to actually help it out to truly understand their relationship to Plankton and Karen instead of Sandy's own family of say Bikini Bottom, because you don't really know Sandy's family. You heard of them, but never fully develop or get more deeper dive that why Sandy left the family, why she decided to invest in science than anything else. And that's just sort of interesting because let's face it, it's one of those reasons why people kind of hate it, to be honest with you. But out of that, let's continue on the next point of this list. Now, the fifth point at Al states that I completely agree is the fact the comedy of both different films. The first one, Say Bikini Bottom, it falls into cringe humor, but not good cringe. It's just sort of very cheaply, very done, but not really understanding what is the punchline and what is the joke, or what is the setup this case. Because you need good setup to set the joke. If you don't have a setup or joke, you do kind of cringe or out of pocket jokes to sell it. But the only problem is, SpongeBob is not cringe humor, he's more clever humor. It usually is just force the humor to come out. And I think one of the big examples is sort of a video called White Writers Hate SpongeBob. And I highly recommend watch that video because that video does get more deeper why writers sort of difficult to write SpongeBob because they don't have time to write a proper episode. They have to rush it. But the only problem is SpongeBob is sort of kind of complicated to write humor because how innocent he really is, but at the same time you understand the other half. The people are frustrated from SpongeBob because they don't want him, but you understand why people hate him. It's just sort of a very intimate dynamic. You just get it. This is the reason why the first 3 seasons last so well, stay so well, because it understands both sides. To compare to basically Plankton, they do that. They kind of try to do that, but at the very end, it falls to modern SpongeBob, like Sandy Cheeks movie. The Sandy Cheeks movie, say Bikini Bottom, they go the cheap route because they just don't know what to do with SpongeBob. I mean, they don't know how to set up a joke because SpongeBob is just being too naive. And I think that's sort of the issue. They just don't know how to execute, at least in Bikini Bottom, to compare to Plankton movie. They feel more original SpongeBob, but not fully there. It's something that I feel they needed at least a couple more rewrites to nail it, the comedy, but the jokes were still technically kind of funny, but I feel they kind of stretch it out, at least in my honest opinion. But besides saying that, it's still a decent movie. Even I don't like it, I do agree the comedy is actually really good. It could be better, but it's still good. Now let's talk about the next part of this list. Now, this is the final point that Al states that the animation of Say Bikini Bottom feel like a cutscene to compare to the Plankton movie feels more refreshing, more dynamic with different angles because they use different art styles. To be fair, both movies were on a budget and had to work what they have, but to be honest, the Sandy Cheeks movie, or Say Bikini Bottom, was sort of re-edited again by Netflix because they didn't like the last result or last film. They decided to remake it again. So this is sort of makes sense why sort of Say Bikini Bottom animation did not look as sharp or well handled like the Plankton movie, because the Plankton movie did have more time, have probably the same low budget, but at least it had more better understanding what they actually wanted. And I think that's why you have the resort, what they actually have, a better animated project, at least in animation wise. They even know how to blend live action and 2D even better than the say Bikini Bottom version, because let's face it, it's obvious, it's because they had to redo the film again of that specific film to compare to the Plankton the movie. They did not need to redo the film, in other words. But it's super obvious why this better, all of that. But I don't know you, that's basically all 6 points they made. And you have to be truthful. I kind of agree and disagree some of them. I do believe some better have certain things, but some fans did point out one extra thing that I sort of forgot: who is specifically working on this specific project. If you don't know, Mr. Lawrence. If you don't know who is Lawrence, he is basically the one of the original crew members of the original SpongeBob working on this project. He have years doing SpongeBob episodes and movies, so his experience does actually shows you how well he understands Plankton and Karen and SpongeBob and all the other side characters. He understood it completely, even more that Lawrence had more time to actually work on this. This is sort of how some of the fans point out his sort of pet project and the side he was working from so many years. And it really shows, because at the very end, it's still well executed, even that I have to say a few patent, but yet it kind of still works. But besides that, compared to the Sandy Chicks movie or say Bikini Bottom, it was sort of made by Lysa Johnson, who is, my understanding, new to SpongeBob. She doesn't really understood or give enough time to really appreciate or understand all the mechanics of SpongeBob. And also you can tell how difficult to make SpongeBob, because let's face it, SpongeBob is not easy to write with. That's why I mentioned that specific video that how writers hate SpongeBob, because SpongeBob is sort of hard to write, because you have to think of so many different point of views to write a joke or write a specific episode to make it work. To compare the new SpongeBob, you can see they chose the more out-of-pocket approach, more exaggerated approach, even that SpongeBob is no more for subtlety than overreaction. But once more, that is just simple rookie mistake by someone who doesn't really knows enough about SpongeBob to actually make it fully work. But other than that, that's all what the fans said, or at least point out the flaws and likes about the SpongeBob film. But yet, I'm still wondering why people stopped talking about it, even that it was received pretty well. Because I said at the very beginning, and the movie hits right and people do like it, they will not stop talking about it till it stops for some apparent reason. And the reason I think is because I think a lot of people did say it pretty well. It's sort of a mid movie. It's okay film. It's not terrible, not completely good. It's sort of a middle of the road that should be a sort of a special 45-minute instead of being an hour and a half, because they have to make it a movie. But other than that, I think this is the reason why it just people stop caring about it. It's just nothing really that new. Even that did have a lot of good ideas. It's just did it sit well? I don't know you. What's your opinion? What was you think the reason why the SpongeBob fans or regular fans did not really they did like it is that they did not stick to it like other things. Why is that? Tell me down below your honest opinion. And for me, it just sort of wasn't well enough. Nothing really that special to actually make it non-stop talking. I think that's basically it. That's truly my honest opinion. I don't know you, what you felt about this. Tell me down below, let me know. I got nothing else to say, just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.